Good Wednesday morning, Northstate. Chief Meteorologist Preston Donion here, talking about a bit of an unusual setup across the Northstate, and that is driven by the remnants of a tropical storm system. So let's take a look at it, right? It's not exactly a classic photogenic hurricane or tropical storm anymore. It was, and this right here, what you're seeing, this kind of funny comma shape, is the remnants of Tropical Storm Elida. So what we get here is still this low pressure, right? That low is centered around here. We have this counterclockwise rotation around it, and what that's going to do is drive air out of the south-southwest into Northern California, and that's bringing in some breezy winds, and on those winds we bring some humidity, some moisture and warmth to some places along the coast that maybe aren't used to seeing particularly warm conditions. So there's some definite tropical elements still associated with what is no longer a tropical storm. And tropical storms just don't really make their way into California in general, but especially this far north because the water is just too cold to support them. To see a tropical cyclone, whether we're talking about a tropical storm or a hurricane, we need water temperatures of at least 80 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So we do not have that off the coast of California, right? We have the cold California current running down the west coast of the U.S., right? We're pulling air from the Arctic and moving it down the coast, and that is why we just can't see these tropical storms roll in the same way they do on the Gulf Coast of America or out towards the East Coast, the Atlantic seaboard, right? Because these ocean currents flow clockwise around ocean basins. So you think about the Pacific Ocean, that warm current that goes from the equator up towards Japan, that's where we have that warm water rising from the equator up towards the poles, and here on the east end of the basin, instead we have that water going from the poles down towards the equator. So that's the real reason why these storms start to fall apart, but the remnants can still be impactful, and that's what we're looking at here. Now, our dew point temperature model that I'm showing you does give our dew points, right? And that's a really important measure of humidity and kind of how muggy the air is going to be. I think it's a little bit aggressive. You're going to get into the afternoon here. You're going to see a lot of spots in Butte and Glenn counties highlighted with dew points closer to 70 degrees or at least into the mid 60s. I think that's a tad bit too high. But remember, rough rule of thumb here when we're talking about dew point, if it's above 60, it's about to get sticky. That's the situation that we're in, is that this very moist tropical air is flowing up from the delta and into the North State. And so you're going to see a lot of communities feel a little gross despite slightly cooler temperatures than yesterday, just because there's that added humidity in the air. So make sure you're ready for a muggy afternoon here on Wednesday. And this is all being carried by those south winds that are rolling their way up I-5 and Highway 99. You're going to see a lot of those impacts out there, bringing that just kind of gross tropical feeling across the board on some breezy winds. And so you still have to be fire smart today. Even though it's going to be fairly humid, you'll want to be careful because it's going to be warm and it is going to be windy. And that wind also carries out to the north coast, where you may see some of our ocean waters between Humboldt Bay and down to about Cape Mendocino. So a very narrow window there, but the possibility of gale force winds. So not an easy day to be out on the boats as we navigate those choppy waters, gusty winds, and again, that muggy air. Here's what those skies look like today. We've got a lot of sunshine this morning, even along the north coast, and that should carry over well into the afternoon, right? Further out in the ocean, things are cloudy, but right along the coast, north of Cape Mendocino, lots of sunshine to be seen. We are watching for the possibility of a few isolated thunderstorms over the higher terrain, and really the main area to watch for is really Alturas eastward towards the Warner Mountains and the Surprise Valley. And maybe this sneaks into eastern Lassen County, but really it does look like the far northeastern corner of California is where we're going to reserve that thunderstorm threat, at least locally. Now, you may go further south towards the central and southern Sierra Crest, and you may run into some thunderstorm development there, but across the far north, things are going to be pretty darn quiet. We head into the evening and that low cloud cover and patchy fog fill in a little further inland for our coastal counties, and we'll head through into Thursday morning feeling that foggy start out there for places like Blue Lake and Garberville, not just Eureka, Trinidad, Crescent City. So just keep that in mind. As we head through into tomorrow afternoon, though, we should see some good clearing out there along the coast for at least a couple hours in pockets, and no thunderstorm development showing up across the interior, whether that's the valley or the mountains. Now, we take a look at the long-range picture into your Thursday, right? Those clear skies prevail, and that's going to be the setup for most folks as we head towards the weekend. Coastal communities should expect to deal with foggy mornings out there and cloudy starts, but some afternoon sunshine each day as we roll through into early next week, where temperatures up until that point, right, really today onward into Tuesday, Wednesday, don't go anywhere outside of the normal range by a couple of degrees. Beyond that, there are some hints that things warm up a little further, but we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Your rain estimates show very little rain activity today. Even with that thunderstorm potential out there, you're seeing just a few green blobs out in Modoc County indicating a few sprinkles, and the rest of what you're seeing is coastal drizzle that shows up overnight into early Thursday. But back to your Wednesday briefly, we're talking 86 in Neyland, 88 in Garberville, and 97 in Willow Creek. Look for about 96 in Hoopa, 86 in Gasky, 72 in Klamath, and 66 in Eureka. So big time warmth along the coast. A lot of places 3 to 5 degrees above normal for this time of year, and we are going to quickly get back to normal once that tropical system moves a little further out of our sphere of influence. So you are going to see temperatures come back down to normal and even a little cooler than normal into the weekend, but overall low 60s, still feeling good, still tracking some sun breaks here and there. Further inland, all about that sunshine and mostly mid 90s for the time being. You do see a slightly cooler weekend shape up out there, and you do see some indications of maybe closer to 100 next week starting around this time, but for the next 7 days we're smooth sailing right where we should be. In Trinity County, we're going to feel that same setup, right? Low to mid 90s on tap day after day as we head through the next 7 days. But today, 93 in Weaverville and Hayfork, 91 in Trinity Center. You've got 86 in Mount Shasta City and Bernie, 89 in Alturas, 87 in Chester, and 85 in Shingletown. Those are other spots where temperatures aren't going to vary very much, right? You're going to go from kind of those mid 80s to about 90 for the next week or so. And in the valley, we are going to turn things back to those triple digits, but not by a lot, right about 100 on the dot in Redding. 97 in Red Bluff today, maybe closer to 99 in a couple days. That's kind of the expectation there. And further south in the valley, we are going to keep things mostly in the 90s all the way through the next week. No triple digits here. 96 in Chico, 95 in Oroville, 97 in Corning, and 90 in Paradise. In Chico, it's about 97 that we're locking in on for your Friday through your Monday. And again, some hints to warm up later next week. Not a solid lock quite yet, but something to keep an eye on. And Redding also watching for that warm up later. But for the time being, it's upper 90s today and tomorrow, about 100 all the way through the weekend and into early next week. So we're hanging out where we should be. In fact, maybe a little bit on the cool side, because remember, 101 is the normal for now.